All right, so today we're going to take a deep dive into moringa, this so-called miracle tree that's been getting a ton of buzz lately. We're looking at an investigative report from KENS5. They're a news station down in San Antonio. And they really went all out with this one. They didn't just report on the headlines. They actually put moringa to the taste test.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. But before we get to that, let's talk about why people are even so interested in moringa in the first place. I mean, we're talking about some pretty big claims. Reducing inflammation, tackling malnutrition and obesity, boosting energy, lowering cholesterol, even helping with diabetes. It's like the cure-all superfood, right?
It really does seem that way. It's almost too good to be true, which I guess is what makes this deep dive so fascinating. The report really highlights just how wide-ranging these claims are. It definitely sets the stage for some serious scrutiny.
Okay, so let's break down where this miracle status even comes from. It all starts with the moringa tree itself. Every single part of it is edible. The leaves, the root seeds, pods, even the flowers. Yeah. But the leaves are really getting the most attention. They're supposed to be packed with vitamins A and C, calcium, zinc, iron, magnesium, potassium. It's like a multivitamin growing on a tree.
Right, and that's a big part of why it's earned that superfood label. It's true. Moringa leaves do contain a pretty significant amount of nutrients. If you look at 100 grams of moringa leaves, for example, you're getting something like 7 times the vitamin C of an orange, double the protein of yogurt, and 4 times the calcium of cow's milk. So it's definitely nutrient-rich.
Wow, those numbers are pretty impressive. But I guess the real question is, does all that translate to actual health benefits? And can you even realistically get your hands on enough moringa to make a difference?
Exactly. And that's where the KENS5 report gets really interesting. They actually sent the reporter out to taste test a bunch of different moringa products. They added it to smoothies. They tried capsules. They even tried moringa powder, which apparently has kind of an earthy flavor.
Yeah, I read that part too. I'm not sure earthy is like at the top of my list of favorite flavors. But I guess it depends on what you're used to. But even if it tastes okay, are we talking about like eating handfuls of leaves every day to actually get those benefits?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? To answer that, the report brings in a registered dietitian, Jan Tilley. She points out that even finding fresh moringa leaves in the U.S. can be a challenge. And even if you do find them, you need to eat a lot to actually get a substantial amount of those nutrients.
Okay, so like how much are we talking about? Like give me a real-world comparison here.
Sure. So Tilley gives this great example. To get the same amount of calcium as just 1 cup of milk, you would need to eat over 2 cups of cooked moringa leaves. And if you're looking at iron, you'd need almost 3 cups of cooked moringa to match the amount in a 3-ounce serving of beef. So it's not impossible to get those nutrients from moringa, but it definitely requires a serious commitment.
So it sounds like while moringa is definitely packed with nutrients, the miracle claims might be a bit overblown.
Well, that's certainly what Tilley seems to be suggesting. She's not saying moringa is worthless,
Right.
but she stresses the importance of looking at the bigger picture. Can it be part of a healthy diet? Sure. But is it a magic bullet that's going to solve all your health problems? Probably not.
Right. I mean, we're always hearing about the next big superfood, but it rarely ever lives up to the hype.
Exactly. And that's why this deep dive is so important. It's not just about moringa itself. It's about becoming more critical consumers of health information in general. We're bombarded with these miracle cure claims all the time. But it's so crucial to look beyond the marketing and really consider the evidence, the practicality, the potential downsides.
Absolutely. We can't just blindly follow the latest trends. We need to understand the science, the context, and the potential risks.
Right. And even when something is generally considered healthy, too much of a good thing can sometimes backfire. Balance is key, as with everything in life.
Okay, so we've established that moringa is nutrient-rich, but maybe not the miracle cure that some people claim it to be. So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Would you try moringa after hearing all of this?
That's a great question. And it's not one I can answer for anyone. Everyone's individual needs and preferences are different. But this deep dive has definitely given us a lot to think about, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has. I know I'm walking away with a whole new perspective on moringa. And honestly, on superfoods in general. It's so easy to get caught up in all the excitement, but it's important to take a step back and ask those critical questions.
Right. And this KENS5 report, even though it's coming from a local angle, it gives us a really good framework for how to evaluate any health trend. Does it have some nutritional merit? Sure, moringa does. But is it this like be-all, end-all solution that some people claim it to be? I think the evidence suggests otherwise.
Yeah, I think what's really sticking with me is that even if moringa isn't like a magic bullet, it can still be a valuable part of a balanced diet. Like, maybe we need to shift our thinking away from searching for that one superfood that's going to solve all our problems, and instead focus on building a sustainable and enjoyable way of eating. That incorporates a variety of nutrient-rich foods.
Absolutely. It's about the long game, not the quick fix. And that's honestly where real health and well-being come from.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. If I'm going to add something new to my diet, it's got to taste good. And that earthy flavor the reporter described, I don't know, not exactly selling it.
Yeah, that's fair. Taste is definitely an important factor. It's interesting how the Key NS5 report included that sensory element. It makes the whole story more relatable, right? It's one thing to read about all the nutritional content, but it's another to actually imagine incorporating it into your daily life.
Totally. And it goes beyond just taste, too. It's about convenience, affordability, whether it even fits into your lifestyle. If I have to track down fresh moringa leaves and eat a mountain of them every day, that's not really sustainable for me.
Right. It all comes back to that critical thinking piece, weighing the potential benefits against the practical considerations. And let's not forget about the potential downsides, too.
Downsides? Like what?
Well, for example, even though moringa is generally considered safe, there's not a ton of research on its long-term effects. And some people might experience digestive issues, especially if they consume large amounts of it. There's also the potential for interactions with certain medications.
Okay, so it's definitely not a risk-free food. It sounds like anyone considering adding moringa to their diet should do their research and maybe talk to their doctor first, especially if they have any underlying health conditions or are taking medication.
Yeah, that's always a good idea when trying anything new, especially if it's being marketed as a miracle cure. Because let's be honest, there's no such thing.
Right. Which brings us back to the bigger picture. We need to be wary of those exaggerated claims and really think for ourselves.
You know what's fascinating about this whole moringa phenomenon is that it ties into this much larger trend, the rise of superfoods and the wellness industry in general. It's a multi-billion-dollar market. That really thrives on our desire for quick fixes and easy solutions.
It's like we're programmed to want to believe that there's some magical food or supplement out there that's going to solve all our problems.
And that's exactly what makes us so vulnerable to these marketing tactics. But as we've seen with moringa, it's usually more complicated than that.
So where do we go from here? How do we navigate this world of health information and actually make informed decisions?
That's the question, isn't it? And that probably deserves its own deep dive. But for now, I think the key takeaway is that we can't just accept everything we hear at face value. We need to be critical. We need to be curious. And we need to be empowered to ask questions.
Yeah, I love that. Critical, curious, and empowered. Those are definitely words to live by, especially when it comes to our health.
Absolutely. And remember, good health isn't just about what we eat. It's about our mindset, our stress levels, our relationships, our environment. It's all interconnected.
That's so true. It's so easy to get caught up in the details of what we're putting in our bodies that we forget about the bigger picture.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes this deep dive into moringa so valuable. It's not just about one specific food. It's about how we think. How we approach health information with a critical eye.
It's like moringa is a case study in how to be a smart health consumer.
Exactly. And the lessons we've learned here, they can really be applied to any health trend, any superfood, any so-called miracle cure that comes along.
So what's the final takeaway for our listeners? What do we want them to walk away with?
I think the most important message is this. Be your own advocate. Do your research. Ask questions. And don't be afraid to challenge the status quo.
I love that. Be your own advocate. It's about taking ownership of our health and well-being and not just blindly following the latest trends.
Right. And there's no shame in enjoying things that are considered healthy. If you like the taste of moringa and it fits into your lifestyle, go for it. But do it because you've made an informed choice, not because you feel pressured by all the hype.
Exactly. It's all about finding what works for you and your own individual needs.
And that's really the beauty of it. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to health. We're all unique. And what works for one person might not work for another.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive into moringa, I'm honestly feeling a little bit lighter, like I've shed some of that pressure to chase after every superfood fad that comes along.
I'm glad to hear that. And hopefully our listeners are feeling that same sense of empowerment. Because knowledge is power. And when we're armed with the right information, we can make choices that truly support our health and well-being.
Well said. So on that note, I think it's time to bid farewell to the miracle tree and embrace the power of making informed decisions.
Yes, absolutely. Until next time, everyone, stay curious, keep questioning, and keep diving deep